Hello and happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And of course, I almost forgot to send Fuzzy the link. My God, I sent everything super late last night. And I'm like, man, Fuzzy's usually here. Well, I did the old man thing. Sorry about that, Fuzzy Belvedere. Thank you so much for being here, brother. We super appreciate it. Folks, check it out. We have two really fun topics to get into today. Again, this show is one of the shorter ones of the week, 75-ish minutes. We have two stories we're going to get into. The first one being this big rumor that popped off over the weekend regarding prototype evolution. And that story is going to be brought to us, of course, by InsiderGaming.com. We will get to that momentarily. There is a secondary story regarding the Xbox showcase for 2025. 5 games that are rumored to be there. And we have something that Ecstasy's had to say that raised an eyebrow for a bunch of people in the community, including myself. We'll get into exactly what he said and exactly what 5 games. Now, there are some there that are like, and others we kind of knew that were going to be there. At least we thought anyway. But Fuzzy Belvedere, how the heck are you, brother? Thank you so much for joining.
I'm great. I'm doing good. This weekend was pretty eventful as far as gaming. Might even touch on some marathon stuff at some point. But man, glad to be here. Glad that we got some surprises to look forward to over at the Xbox Showcase coming in June. Not going to be in person this year, but I think our fan fest that'll probably come later in the year will kind of make up for things. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting show today. We got some cool topics, some a classic game that might make a comeback. Fingers crossed and everything. But yeah, we're gonna have a good one today.
Well, it should be fun. And again, we have a lot to get into. One of the, let's open up with a small topic that wasn't normally, wasn't at least on the docket. Again, this is going to be a bit of a bonus conversation because it did happen and pop off over the weekend. And I kind of want to get the community's opinion about this. So, Fuzzy, Sony is raising the price of the PlayStation 5 in a couple of countries. Now, it's not being raised here yet. And I say yet because these tariffs originally, folks, you know how I feel about politics. It's filthy and I hate talking about it, but it's a reality to the world that we're living in. And originally it was thought that we as gamers were not going to be bothered by these certain tariffs, right? And that has changed over the weekend. Originally, semiconductors for video games were kind of going to be left alone. At least that's how it was being reported. And that's not so much the case. So if the semiconductors to make video games and video game consoles goes up, well, obviously that price is now going to be pushed on to, of course, the consumer. That's how these things work. We unfortunately pay for everything, and that sucks. But again, it's a small bonus story. It happened over the weekend. Obviously, this is an Xbox show. We're not going to pile on the rabbit on PlayStation as, oh my God, why are they doing this? But outside of what Nintendo could possibly do, they are raising the prices. So again, I saw somebody actually say this, and I know it's a bit of a bonus topic, but it's some food for thought, Fuzzy Belvedere, when you consider that right now Xbox is at a holding pattern, right? They have Xbox Game Pass. They've had quite a few games released this year that have come out and people are very much enjoying them. Game Pass continues to feed the monster of gamers because obviously there's been so much that's been put in there in the last couple of weeks and continues to get put in there. South of Midnight just released. You had Avowed to open up the year. You have Doom: The Dark Ages happening next month. I mean, we're eating good in the neighborhood. Plus all of the extra things that are in there that are not Microsoft first party. So when you kind of just take a step back, right? And again, this is where I have to get the pulse of the community. If you just take a look at the environment that we're in, right? And we're just looking at the 3 big. You're looking at Nintendo, and Nintendo had a great, at least in my opinion, a great direct where they showed off a lot of really good games. I'm very interested in the Switch 2. I really want to get one for myself. Unfortunately, they kind of marred the conversation a bit with, pausing the pre-orders, which sucks, right? And also $80 games. Nobody wants $80 games. Sorry, that's just nobody wants that in our lives. And now you have Sony raising the price of the console. And again, it's 5 to 6 countries to start. I believe America is going to be around the corner. So the point of this conversation that we're having isn't so much that it's pointed directly at Nintendo and Sony, Fuzzy Belvedere, but I kind of wonder if Microsoft on this holding pattern is the one that's looking good right now, right? Because if you just, again, this is a speculation kind of conversation. Let me know what you guys and gals think in the chat about Xbox being the good guy here. For once in, I can't remember the last freaking time, but Xbox seems to be not only the best value in gaming, right? Their consoles have not been raised, thank goodness yet, because obviously I think it's going to happen to everybody, but we'll see. But right now, they are the best place to play, and that's the thing. See, with Xbox being so forward thinking and having this play anywhere initiative where you can play on PC, you can play on your tablet, you can play on your on your TV. You can play, and I'm not talking about traditionally on your TV. You can, if you have a newer TV, load up the Xbox app and go. You have all these different ways of playing that's not just console. And right now, Nintendo Switch 2 could go up in price, could be as much as $700, $80 games, right? Nobody wants that in our lives. Sony, well, you can play in a few places, but certainly not as much as Xbox. And Xbox right now is killing it with Xbox Game Pass. And it's hard to argue, Fuzzy Belvedere, why and how that this is actually happening and that Xbox looks like the good guy here. Let's get your thoughts, Matt.
Well, the great thing with Xbox being forward thinking as far as putting their games on PC, having it where you can play it on a tablet or laptop you may already own, or certain TVs you may have recently purchased or are looking to purchase, they have at least a broader reach to reach their consumers with games without it, breaking the bank kind of deal. Now, those getting into gaming now and are looking to pick up a console, if the tariffs do run the course, I'm hearing in some regards consoles might be excluded, might not be excluded, or if they're excluded, it might be a temporary thing until semiconductors are the primary focus. There's going to be some wiggle room and movement throughout these next few months. But in the grand scheme of things, there are going to be electronics that are going to go up in price. So if you're on, or if you're in the market for one of those, I would say it's probably best to pick them up now, as opposed to waiting out the storm kind of thing before prices do start getting increased in the States. But when it comes to, like PlayStation, of course, they're going to start raising prices. I hate, being the one to point that out, but it's like they are typically the ones that don't want to absorb any outside costs or expense and things along those lines and pass them on to the consumer. Nintendo is kind of evaluating the situation now. Initially, things looked like they were going to be on the up and up as far as avoiding future tariffs, but considering that even Vietnam is considered a target. On Xbox's side, they've diversified their manufacturing where some of it, a small amount of it, very small amount, and the same thing with PlayStation or in the States, but most of it's like Taiwan, Mexico, and there's still stuff that's made in China as well. They're trying to figure out the best way to reach the customers without having to hit them over the head with these extra costs that they're going to have to pass on to the consumer. Because keep in mind, Best Buy is not going to want to absorb the cost. Kmart's not going to want to absorb, or not Kmart, but Walmart's not going to want to absorb the cost, and neither is Amazon. So all these places are going to have an increase in their costs or their overall bottom line, which they might absorb a couple of percentage points here and there, but ultimately we'll probably wind up footing the bigger part of the bill. But with all that being said, I think Xbox was trying to make it so other devices outside the console have it where you can still access the games. ordinary devices that you may already own at this time, whether it's the tablet, the laptop, your desktop PC, you're pretty much able to partake in gaming from those devices or their current consoles. Hopefully the handheld that's coming either later this year, the one with the ROG Ally variant, or their own primary one in the next year or so. Hopefully by that point the whole tariff debate or battle is over or at its end type of thing. But in the meantime, Xbox has the broader window to reach gamers, being able to be played on multiple devices. PlayStation is behind on that, but they are at least making attempts with PC, so that is a good outlet for them as well. Whether it's going through Steam or Epic, eventually maybe their own PC launcher, which is in the works. It's going to be some time, but with all of that said, at least PlayStation is looking forward as well. It's just that they're a couple of steps behind in that regard. When it comes to Nintendo, we'll see if they make that pivot. I've been saying it would make more sense to start offering some of their classic games that they offer online that they don't really offer, in physical or digital versions on even their current devices. Make those available on a PC launcher to some extent, do a subscription thing. They had to have seen some of the numbers of what was being pirated. And in some cases, a majority of those pirating it wasn't that they just want to have it for free. It's like they can't transfer stuff from their N64 or their older SNES or NES over to something that's easily playable or that might still be accessible for them. So having a store for their classics that's available on like the PC storefront would make sense. But Nintendo is more stubborn sometimes than Sony, so we'll see how that pans out. But luckily for Xbox, all the stuff that a lot of the hardcore may have seen as a detriment to the brand is actually going to wind up being the strength moving forward. And if consoles are not, that there isn't as much of an exception on them, but certain PC parts are until the semiconductor tariffs flare up, then being able to play your games on PC or a PC handheld, acting like a console will probably be the biggest advantage that we have as Xbox fans. So we'll see, but I think Xbox, I don't know if they have tea leaves or crystal ball or not, but it seems like they were best prepared for pretty much any outcome as far as how things are looking, whether it's tariff battles or just short supply on things or even a potential pandemic. I think the big thing was seeing how the pandemic kind of exposed how we don't have the supply lines like we should. They probably looked at other alternatives, such as even Nintendo for that matter. But they're probably best suited considering they have access to PC through Windows. They're working on handhelds. They have a mobile app that we're hoping is released soon. They do have the mobile access, but not a dedicated mobile app for those on iOS, other than going through their browser kind of thing. But yeah, they're always, sometimes to their detriment, they're always a few steps ahead. Like look at how the Kinect and all of that stuff went, and now Nintendo's kind of going through that to some extent. Not with a Kinect per se, but like the if you don't want to pay these prices, we have a console for you kind of thing. It looks like Xbox always a couple of steps ahead, and it's going to be to their benefit in these coming months, coming weeks, or years, even for that matter. And the others might have a little bit rougher time, but if you're in the market, get your electronics now while they're not,
smart.
Overpriced. Let's just say.
I mean, that's actually a smart idea, but something, I didn't even equate what you said, and now it makes even more sense, right? Like, look, every dinosaur in this chat, which by the way, we have 315 people already here. We're 17 minutes into the show. This is amazing, folks. Like I said, nothing is guaranteed on YouTube, and Mrs. Boom and I are incredibly grateful for the amount of views that we get, even with the amount of people here that are in the chat watching live. When you consider what I said to open up and to kind of give you the layup for this, I didn't even take into account the fact that they've gone multi-plat, they've gone third party. Now, granted, folks, understand dinosaurs like us, we still don't like the idea, right? It's still a weird processing, right? Like you say, Halo's going to be on Nintendo, maybe Halo's going to be on what, PlayStation? This is outrageous, but that, in fact, unfortunately, is the nature of the beast. And Fuzzy, I just want to just kind of add some additional context. You said better prepared, tea leaves. Well, it looks like Xbox was looking down the line. Now, I'm not saying that they had any idea that these, that the current administration was going to tariff the entire world. No one could have ever guessed that. I'm just saying that when you consider, their consoles, they're just not selling as much as they used to. Why is that? Well, because you can get the games everywhere, right? So no one needs to buy an Xbox, quote unquote. Why are you going to buy? So, like Paris asked a couple of months ago, Phil, why should I buy a new Xbox? Because this next Xbox is going to be much different than we've ever had before for consoles. And that's this magic box that's going to do everything, right? So when you consider Nintendo, $80, $90 games, potentially a $700, I can't even believe I'm saying this, Mamma Mia, $700 Switch 2, which again, I read a report this morning where it said that it could be tariffed at 125%. Like, just do the math, ladies and gentlemen, that the thing was coming in at $500 to begin with. I mean, that's just crazy. So yeah, I mean, again, as someone who loves his nephew more than I love my own life, he's going to get a Switch by hook or by crook. But if it's $700, I will not buy one for myself. I cannot sign off on that. But for the kid, you better believe it. Whatever's got to go, it's got to go. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way it is. And if you have kids, and I don't consider, he's not my son, but I consider him to be one. So he's a really good kid. He's an A student. He gets what he wants, pretty much. And he don't ask for much, which is awesome for a 16-year-old. But again, folks, look, great way to open up the show. What you're going to see in front of you, now this video is 2 hours long, but I kind of specifically, Fuzzy, put it to this part because this is the stage where I got 94 kills. So if you count last game and this game, that's 144 kills in 2 games. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're saying you are cheating POS, Boom. I know it. And the only thing that I'm using is the Black Ops 6 Elite controller with the trigger pulls that are really short. Other than that, it's all skill. So check it out. Watch me, just destroy everybody in my path. And yes, that is a ridiculously powerful shoddy with Dragon's Breath, and it's amazing. So there you go. But shout out to Hargeet. Welcome to the chat, brother. Great to see you here. Like I said, folks, I am very excited for where the industry is going. I'm just very concerned on pricing. I'm concerned on things that are happening for the world as a whole. And man, I just think that you are really opening Pandora's box at $80 games because if it's just an $80 game, that's okay, that sucks, right? Nobody wants to pay $80, but the wording that they use, that Nintendo used, of all places, variable pricing, that is very dangerous, because what that ultimately means is if they spent, I don't know, $300 million on a game, they're going to charge $100 for that game. If Grand Theft, now think about this, Grand Theft Auto 6, and we're going to get to the other 2 topics, but bear with me as we, try and walk on this slippery slope. Grand Theft Auto 6 has been in development for what, Fuzzy? A decade, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be 10 years. So 2013, right, is when Grand Theft Auto 5 comes out. You would imagine that they're already working on Grand Theft Auto 6 when that thing launches. I know that they've had a couple of iterations. So let's just say, for shits and giggles, you don't want to say 10 years. You'll say 8 years. Okay, 8 years. 8 years. At 8 years, what does that equate to in development cost? $1 billion? $2 billion? $3 billion? I don't know the math. But if it is that much, how much do you think they're going to charge for Grand Theft Auto with the ideology of variable pricing. $150? Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Hopefully not for a base copy. I'm still okay with 100, maybe 150 for like your deluxe or ultimate editions that come with like either extra content or some extra skins or like startup money for the online. But yeah, when we start normalizing the base edition being 150, and yes, I did grow up during a time where cartridges were in those price ranges for certain systems. In fact, some of the Neo Geo games
I
were
bought
double
one.
in some cases.
$325 after tax. I hate myself to this day. There you go.
but it's one of those things that I think they'll make more money on the front end, because there's going to be some of us that are like, you know what, I'm going to be playing this thing for hundreds, if not thousands of hours. It's worth it to me. But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to just wait on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people that I've seen throughout the chat and make mention in the past where it's like they have yet to pay $70 for a game that's come out this generation. They typically wait for a sale, which I tend to do a lot of times on things that are outside Game Pass. It's like, could I spend that 70? Yeah, I've done it on a handful of games, but a majority of them, it's like, you know what? Ratchet and Clank, I waited. Gran Turismo, I didn't wait, but I bought the deluxe copy. So yeah, I'm part of the problem. But it's one of those things where I think these developers or even these publishers are going to come to the realization that, yeah, getting that money up front is great. But if you're not selling the 20 million plus, now this is outside of Rockstar and Activision with COD and stuff like that. But if they're not selling those 20 million copies like they may have done last generation for $60 a pop, that extra $10 might not, make them any extra money in the grand scheme of things. Like keeping things at 60, or just have a base game at 60, have the extra content at anywhere from 10 to 30, depending on how involved that content is. And I think there would be a lot more people that wouldn't be on the fence or necessarily wait until a sale. Like I remember when games were $60, 9 times out of 10, I'd buy the game, no questions asked. And then it would sit in my backlog probably until it came to Game Pass or PS Plus or whatever it was called back then. And, by the time I'm playing it, I could have had it for free in one of those services that I'm paying for. But I think now when things being 70, it's like, no, I'll wait for a sale, or I'll wait, see how the reviews go, or I'll wait a bit and see if there's like a remaster of it. Cause certain titles get remastered in 2 or 3 years, but that's a whole nother topic. But when it comes to $70 games, I'm not the biggest fan. $80 games, no, definitely not a fan. Unless it's a edition, like a ultimate edition or something. But $100 games, like Rockstar, better not. Take-Two better not. Like if they do, I think they ruin the potential of breaking records of 40 million within like 24 hours. I don't think you reach that 40 million in 24 hours at $100 a pop. 60 or 70 a pop, yeah, I think you can do it. $100 a pop, I think you stagnate yourself at 20 million. Yeah, you might get the 40 million before the year is out because it's that type of title, but I don't think you do like world record 24 hours or 48 hours or first week of, nearly 100 million copies sold kind of thing, like they would if they just keep it at a reasonable price. But that's just my 2 cents.
No, and it's a good 2 cents, and it actually makes a lot of sense. You wonder if they were going to break $1 billion in 24 hours at $100 a pop, probably. And I don't think it's going to deter a lot of people. I've already said that I will not pay $100. I'm just not doing it. What I will do is, I don't know about you fine folks, I do my Microsoft points thing every day. Like every day I do it. So I'm upwards of 200,000, just a pinch under 200,000. I had 300,000, and I cashed in 100,000 points, and I got Refantazio, the deluxe edition, for free. Like I got it for nothing. And I will cash those points in. Hopefully by the time Grand Theft Auto comes out, if it's holiday, I'll have crossed that 200,000 threshold, and then I'll get a $100 game, because then that's not a problem. If I'm not paying for it and the points paid for it, yeah, it's not a problem, but I am not paying that $100 out of my pocket. I'm just not going to do that. But for free, it's for me, as the kids like to say. But Fuzzy Belvedere, chat, let's just say a big thank you to everyone that's here. We're 24 minutes into the show. 402 people are watching. Of course, I think we have one Twitch viewer, which is always awesome. Hello, Twitch. Thanks so much for viewing. We also have people watching on X, which is awesome, as well as YouTube. If you're here, please hit the like button. We would greatly appreciate it. We are officially 179 subs away from 16K. Folks, we're close. We're not that close, but we're close enough where we can start talking about. And the hit 16K would be a big deal. Any 1,000 that you go, whether it be 17, 18, or 20 or 25 or 50, those are magical numbers. Maybe we get there, maybe we don't. But you know what? You can help us if you're not already subscribed. Please consider subscribing. Now, before we get to the next topic, folks, I usually forget this because I'm an old man, but you know what? We have teamed up with Valari, and I spent some money on doing a commercial for it. So what I want to do is it's 30 seconds long, and I'm not going to beat you over the head with why you should buy this pillow. Right now, it's tough to buy anything, so I'm never going to say, "Hey, you buy my pillow," because I want to make money. But we did team up with them. They did go out of their way to make a double barrel gaming pillow, which outside of the Iron Lords and our pillow, there are not many, podcasts that have their own pillow. It's a really big deal for us, especially how small of a channel we are. So again, we've teamed up with Valari. They're a mom and pop organization just like us. It's run by a husband and wife and a brother, just like this channel is run by a husband and wife. And we try to help each other out. We try to sell each other's products. And I'm going to try and sell you a pillow. And if you're not interested, I hear you. But these pillows do work, especially if you game a lot. And of course, if you game a lot while sitting and having back pain. Like me, I can't sit for too long. And I find myself hunching. This pillow takes that away. And the pillow design is freaking dope, in my opinion. Do me a favor, folks. Check out the commercial and we'll get right back to the show. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There is your 30-second commercial. That is the Double Barrel Gaming Special Edition pillow. You can get 15% off your entire order if you type in the code DBG15 at checkout. And listen, every pillow that goes, it's one step closer to other places looking at the channel. Say, hey, listen, maybe we want to partner with them. We've had quite a few partners over the years. We've partnered with Manscaped, which was fun. Mag used to write the commercials for that. He was awesome. And we've partnered up with Arcade One Up. They sent me a machine. We reviewed it. And there's been a few others. But look, again, folks, I know money's tight for everybody. If you're interested, check out the pillow, and you can save 15% by using the code DBG15 to checkout. And let's get right back to the show. And of course, here we go, Fuzzy Belvedere. Okay, so this one is exciting for me. Now, one of the biggest things, Fuzzy, that came out of the ABK deal was, look, I think it's safe to say tip of spear, Call of Duty, right? Is it in Game Pass? Isn't it in Game Pass? Well, guess what, folks? It was in Game Pass, and it still sold better on the PlayStation 5. 65% of sales were on PS5, even though it was on Xbox Game Pass. Go figure, right? But Xbox made a lot of money. Microsoft made money, and we got it into our service, and all we had to do was pay $30 for the upgrade, right? So, of course, when you talk about ABK, a couple things come to mind. Blizzard, WoW, Call of Duty. But there were a lot of smaller titles in there that were big on the Xbox 360 days. And there were no bigger than Prototype 1 and 2. Prototype 1, more specifically, is the best of the series, hands down. Well, we have a report here from InsiderGaming.com, written by Mike Straw, published on April 12th. And it says, new prototype game in the works, playtester claims. Now, let's read directly from the article. And it goes on to say this, ladies and gentlemen: a new prototype game is reportedly in development, according to a user on Reddit by the name of Bigby. Big B goes on to say that they were given details about a new game in the series as part of a recent study group session. And this is what it goes on to say. The user claims that the game will see Alex Mercer, who was the original protagonist, return and take on that role once again. Gameplay will reportedly feature shape-shifting and transforming into other people in order to, quote-unquote, infiltrate areas. Lastly, the game will once again be based in New York City. Now, Insider Gaming, according to the article, reached out to Bigsby and regarding their claims and was told the following. Now, check this out, folks. This is directly from the playtester, and I quote, "It was a YouGov survey which asked me to sign an NDA and confirm that I would not disclose the contents. It then confirmed a series of features that upcoming games will include and how popular this was with me, percentage-wise. It was not a play test, but did specifically ask that these features were already planned as part of an upcoming game. Insider Gaming has yet to fully verify the validity of the claims, but felt it was a rumor worth covering. As always, until it's verified by Insider Gaming with more details or officially announced by Activision, take all of the information with a giant grain of salt." Now, look, Fuzzy, Prototype is one of those, and I've heard the comparisons. Like, when you think of, superhero open worlds, a lot of people will equate that with Spider-Man for PlayStation, and for good reason. Spider-Man 2018 is brilliant. Is it perfect? No, but it's still a brilliant game. Spider-Man 2 was good, just not better, at least in my opinion, than 2018. I really, like, as again, folks, I'm not going to, try and play any violins for you. The Miles Morales, expansion, if you want to call it that, really hit home for me personally, but that was for personal reasons. I loved every second of it. I really did. A lot of people in the community, Fuzzy, when you look at Prototype, they've kind of one-to-one it with Spider-Man, being this big open world, swinging around, doing all these crazy moves. And of course, unlike Spider-Man, he's shape-shifting into generals and into people that in the military to walk into bases and things. Well, it seems like that's going to be returning. And I got to say, like I said, a lot of us in the community have been saying, man, where are all of these Activision games? Where's Prototype 1 and 2? Where's Singularity? I mean, hell, where's Guitar Hero? Like, if you don't want to put them up on the store for sale, fine. I have every disc. And I have a brand new freaking guitar that released last year, just jazzing to go. So where are these games? Now, we've heard some different things about Call of Duty and bringing back some of the older games, remaking some of the older games, maybe like World of War gets a remake, not just a fresh coat of paint. I mean, like a remake. And that would be kind of dope. But to hear that there's a new Prototype, and it actually has a name. It's called Prototype Evolution is what it's called. Fuzzy, let's get into this because this is exciting, right? This is something I think, now granted, I know, 5 years ago, this would have been an Xbox exclusive. Well, Prototype was everywhere when it came out, right? It was here, there, and everywhere. I would imagine it's going to be everywhere again. But this game, I think, would be one of those games that you just keep adding these AAA experiences to Xbox Game Pass. And like the first story, at some point, people are going to be like, you know what? I'm not paying $80 for a Nintendo game. And Sony's raising their prices, and Sony hasn't put out a big first-party game in a while. I think I'm going to go with Xbox. Let's get into Prototype Evolution. Are you excited for what could potentially be the third game in the series?
Well, yes, but I do want to start with one thing, and a few people made some funny comments about it with the NDA that this person signed, which
again, that was hilarious. It was like a joke. It's like you pulling my leg. I signed an NDA, but here you go.
Now I've signed quite a few of them with Microsoft. I'm not going to disclose what they were about, but
you
Microsoft
signed an NDA, sir. Don't do it.
Yeah. Microsoft does this a lot with things that they want feedback from their player base. So I could see somebody doing this. Now, will they get found out? I'm pretty sure at some point Microsoft will figure out who's the leaker. But in the grand scheme of things, I think Microsoft is doing a lot of this stuff behind the scenes right now as we speak on a variety of titles. But when it comes to prototype, I think the big thing is we've always wanted our own superhero. And we know Phil is not the biggest fan of licensing. So this would be a great way to kind of have the best of both worlds, where it's an IP you own that you have pretty much the whole slate or whole freedom to take it any direction you want. It's almost like a beloved title that was on PlayStation, like with Infamous. I'm surprised they haven't considered remastering that. But all of that aside, I think making a new part or a new chapter in the prototype series is a worthwhile adventure or worthwhile venture for them to do. It checks the box for a superhero or anti-hero, depending on how you play it. It also checks the box for a title in their library of titles to bring back that people have actually asked for. Like Hexen was one that Phil had mentioned, and I think he even made mention for Guitar Hero. But a lot of people said Tony Hawk, which they've already brought back. Some people wanted the Crash series, which they've done some stuff with that as well. Having Prototype, that was another one that was high on the list. And if we can get a lot more of these types of titles, I can't remember, was it Raven that did Prototype originally? Raven Studios, I think. I can't remember, but if they could bring back a lot of those earlier titles that they had during the 360 era back to Xbox in general, or even if it goes multi-platform, I think they'll find a pretty decent sized audience for it. And having something along those lines, shape-shifting, having a stealth element, let's say, or infiltration by doing the shape-shifting, or the different morphing that you can do as far as the weapons or damage type stuff, almost like Venom type of deal, would be nice. But I hope this is something that we see in the next few years, or maybe we see a vertical slice, maybe partially CGI trailer this June, because Xbox is definitely working on a lot of stuff. Like, we know they have roughly, I think, 15 more titles that are going to release within the next 2 to 3 years. And there's probably another 10 to 15 that we don't know about completely, whether it's just a code name and nothing more, or we haven't even gotten the code name yet for. So if this is one of those projects, I can't wait until they give us more info on it. Fingers crossed we see something in June.
You know what? That's an interesting theory. One of the things that I think it's safe to say with Xbox more specifically is owning Activision and owning Bethesda. You have now granted, yes, they're part of the big umbrella, but they're still their own publishers. They're still working on things. And again, this is just me kind of spitballing here, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what's exactly happening with the Activision games. Obviously, there's been a couple of Call of Duties in there. They just dropped Diablo 3 was in there, just magically dropped into there. That probably should have been there already, but okay, fine, whatever. It took this long. We don't know exactly why the older games haven't jumped into it. Now, see, I mean, okay, so we do and we don't know. The part that we do know is like when Sony adds a game to their service, it is the game that you played 17 years ago. Like if you played Twisted Metal, Black, even though that's one of my favorite in the series, by the way, freaking awesome. I would listen. I know I'm part of the problem. Remake that from the ground up. Give me a new Twisted Metal Black. I'm in. Take my money. That was my favorite in the series. But if they put that into their service, you're playing what it looked like on the. I think that what was Black? Was that PlayStation 2 or 3? Might have been 2. I don't remember. It's been that long. But that's what the version you're getting. Unlike with Xbox, you are getting HDR boost, you are getting FPS boost, you're getting all these things. I don't know if because the catalog is so extensive, they just don't have the manpower. Now, we know that they do have a team because Sarah Bond said so. They have a team that's dedicated to both forward and backwards compatibility. I don't know if it's the same team that made backwards compatibility happen, from the 360 to the Xbox One days. I would imagine yes to some extent, but how big is that team? Because Activision has a ridiculous amount of games. So I'm gonna imagine, you have to take a certain amount of games, work on those games, and then go. It can't be just copy and paste folder, drop it in, and you're good. I don't think that's the way it works, Fuzzy Belvedere. But this is exciting for me because even though I liked 2, I didn't love it. I'm not sure why, but I remember at least fondly loving the original. Prototype 1 was amazing. And I really think that there is room, because he's not a superhero, he's an anti-hero, sure, right? So he's chopping up everybody in front of him, and what his motivations are, right? So it's great, but I would love to see this happen. I hope that, again, sorry that the guy broke the NDA, and he's probably going to be in some sort of trouble, because I've signed quite a few NDAs and I won't even utter the word of what I signed, because I'm not trying to get sued, because this is a little ass channel and I don't have protections. Pause. Hold on a second. Hold on a sec there. But yeah, so look, this is again, folks, it's going to be an evolving story, just like the character himself. I would imagine that we will continue to hear these types of things, because you're right, Fuzzy. They are working on these things behind the scenes. It's not just Xbox doing Xbox things. It's Activision still doing their thing. It is Bethesda still doing their thing. We're in for it. And as an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, like we said in the first opening topic, right now, you are winning. You are able to play your video games, no matter how many release in a week, and actually be able to play them, not worrying about who's robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I think that is ultimately the dopest thing in gaming right now. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be an expert or anything, but $80 games and a sub service that doesn't give you a lot of new things with Sony's, a price hike for the console, a potential tariff hike for everyone's raising their prices, and Xbox, they look like the good guy, and this is another game that could fall into the service, and you're playing it day and date for whatever the price is, whether it be $70 or $80. So I have a feeling that everyone's going to go to $80 at some point. You will still be able to play your games. Now, granted, could Game Pass go up this year? Could it go up next year? It's possible, but if I just want to say this to anyone listening from Xbox, don't be a boob and raise the freaking prices now. Don't do it now. It would be a really ugly look. But yes, Prototype, Evolution, potentially in active development. I'm very excited. I'm a big fan of the game. I think Alex Mercer is a great character, and I'd love to see what a skyline of New York at night, swinging and flying in the air as this creature. It would be pretty dope. But Fuzzy, we got to get into and again, this is a fun one, folks, ladies and gentlemen. This is a fun one. I think you're going to enjoy it. So, Fuzzy, we have a story here from PureXbox.com. It was written by Fraser Gilbert. It was posted on Thursday. And the headline for the story is Rumor. These 5 games could show up at the Xbox Game Showcase in 2025. And it's asked a question, is this a hint of what's to come? So you're asking yourself, well, Boom, I can't see your screen. What are the 5 games? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Now, this original report comes the way of Ecstasies. You've heard me mention him before, a Spanish YouTuber with a lot of insider connections. A lot of people use his stuff. I use it all the time. Both stories that we use today will, of course, be in the show notes. So if you want to read both stories for yourself, you can just click away when the show is done. When the video is up on demand, you can check them out there. But here is the 5 games that Ecstasies was talking about. Now, the first one, I think, is a no-brainer, Fuzzy, and that is Gears of War Collection. Now, why do I think it's a no-brainer? Because we've keep hearing about this game. Now, there has not been an official announcement But the one thing that we do know is that Gears of War E-Day is happening in 2026. So the Gears of War collection, everyone has reported on this. Special Nick is the one that broke this. Nick, if you're listening, brother, he broke this. I want to say it's a couple years ago. I don't know exactly how long ago, but he got such shit from people about this not being true, folks. It exists. Trust me when I tell you, it exists. And according to Ecstasies, this is one of the games that is going to be there. Now, we also know that Ninja Gaiden 4 is going to be there. Makes sense because that's going to be coming out in the fall, and I'm sure they're going to have that as well. But here's another no-brainer. Hollow Knight Silksong. We saw it on Nintendo stage. We've been hearing about this for years. Every time Xbox has an opportunity to talk about Hollow Knight Silksong, they do. The game has been delayed. We're still waiting. That's fine. That could potentially be there. And again, that's a bit of a no-brainer. The two that are shocking is Minecraft Dungeons 2. Now, I don't know how many people played Minecraft Dungeon 1. I very much enjoyed that. I played it for the first couple of expansions, and like anything else, I kind of fell off. But it was a lot of fun. It was a dungeon crawler. It was Minecraft meets Diablo, and it was awesome. Just a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it. And a sequel, I did not know it did that well enough to warrant a sequel, but after the Minecraft movie, now it makes sense. Like if this actually happens, it's going to make bank, right? People are going to be buying it. I mean, they're up 30% on Minecraft game sales since the movie. You saw the pictures with my nephew. All he wants to do is, get collectibles for the Minecraft movie. It's what kids do, right? So that's why we're running around the whole weekend. And the other one, see, this one, it's a bit of this one is shocking. Persona 4 Remake. I didn't even know that this was happening, right? Like, okay, so that makes sense, right? It's gonna Persona 4. A lot of people really like it, so remaking Persona 4 while we wait for the next one in the series would be great. Maybe you get the remake and the announcement of the new one at the Xbox showcase. I mean, that's always a possibility.
Yeah,
but that's not where this story starts and ends. We kind of have an idea, Fuzzy, that these things are going to be there. The two surprises for me, Minecraft Dungeons 2, Persona 4 Remake. But I think what raised eyebrows over the weekend is what Ecstasy said regarding surprises. Now he goes, and I'm really going to read it verbatim. Ecstasy says, they tell me literally there will not be an event. This will not be an event of great surprises. And to me, that's a bit perplexing, because if there's one thing that we usually take away from these events is Xbox shows up and they show up big. Now, maybe because State of Decay 3, that's rumored to be there, gameplay isn't really a surprise, right? Because we've already seen it. We know that it's coming out at some point, whether it be this year or next year. I would imagine that we could see some actual, full-on, maybe gameplay of Fable, right? It was pushed into next year. That's definitely a possibility. We kind of know that's coming, right? Perfect Dark, maybe we get some more video on that. Again, that's supposed to be coming next year as well. There's no big surprise there. But I think where we could see a surprise, and I want to get the chat involved in this, what game do you need to be at this showcase? So for you, and I'll hand over the mic to you, I would imagine that it's Forza Horizon 6. Right? That's tip of spear for you.
Yeah.
For me, I hope that the rumor of this Halo Combat Evolved remake from using Unreal Engine 5 that's what I want to see, because I'm a Halo OG. That's what I want to see. Fuzzy Belvedere, again, this is going to be a big show. Yeah. We know we have the developers direct on the back end that is going, we already know that's happening, and that's been happening for the last couple of shows, which is great, right? We know the game that they're going to show. for the developers direct. No surprise there. But I kind of, again, I'm not saying that Ecstasies is wrong. What I'm saying is I don't necessarily know if Xbox shows up with no surprises. What first of all, besides the obvious choice for Forza Horizon being that, that's, you want to see that, everyone wants to see what 6 is going to look like. Hopefully it's in Japan. Fingers crossed. Pray to the gaming gods, ladies and gentlemen, that it is, of course, going to be in Japan. What else do you want to see? And do you think they would show up with no surprises?
I think the surprise aspect depends on if you're in the trenches as far as like whether it's podcasts or your party chats and things like that on the most recent games. I think for those that aren't in those loops, maybe the DLC for Indiana Jones would be a surprise to them, but not a surprise to the majority of us. The DLC for a second DLC for Starfield, maybe Starborn makes an appearance. That may be a surprise for those outside the loop, but inside the loop, probably not a surprise if they saw it.
Yeah,
something
that makes sense.
Something as big as Everwild, like they've been more chatty more recently, or at least Rare has been in regards to that. And with some of the stories earlier in the year from Jez, as far as they now have they've had for some time now a good idea of what the game loop is for that. I wouldn't be surprised if that makes an appearance, but once again, that's the group of us that are in the loop, let's say, like those watching the podcast, those that watch a lot of these showcases and whatnot. Everwild wouldn't really be a surprise. It'd be nice to see, but it wouldn't necessarily be a surprise. But for somebody that hasn't been following its development and some of its not stumbles, but like some of its holdbacks from the earlier showing, yeah, it might be a surprise for them to see that game make a return at the showcase. So Silksong, for those that watched even the the Nintendo Direct, yeah, that wouldn't be a surprise. But I think for some people, knowing that it's going to be day and date for Game Pass, those that haven't been paying attention when it was shown in previous showcases, day and date with an actual date for when it goes into Game Pass, I think that would be something pretty big. But that might be surprise worthy for outside the loop, but not inside the loop. But I would love to see Forza Horizon 6. I don't think it makes an appearance, and only because of the approach that Xbox is taking with the multi-platform aspect of things. I mean, it would be diabolical if they did, in the sense that they put Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation 5. Maybe they even get it on Switch at that point, and then to show it on for Xbox and not day and date for PlayStation for Forza Horizon 6, they might have to wait a full year before they get it after they've already spent money on 5. Would be a little diabolical, but I don't think they would go quite that route. So I'm not going to hold them to it, but maybe it makes an appearance at the Game Awards. That would probably give a little bit more timing, so those that buy it on other platforms don't feel as bad or like they've been had or something. But I'm surprised that we haven't heard a lot from Double Fine. Like I do think Double Fine makes an appearance, but once again, I don't think it's a surprise to us that have been paying attention. It's like about time, or that time frame from Psychonauts 2 to now, that should have at least one of their 2 games that we're aware of, or one of their 3 games I think that they might be working on at this point, make an appearance. And there's all the other things, like Ninja Theory has now floated like 3 titles that they're working on. They are working on a Hellblade 3, although it's early stuff. There's Project Mara, and then there was supposedly a 3rd project that they were working on before they get to Hellblade 3. So Project Mara making an appearance, those outside the loop might see that as a surprise. I think it's ample time enough to at least see or get an update of what it is, considering their prowess for visual amazement and stuff like that. I think showing us now, or whether they hold it until like the Game Awards, might be another approach. But I think, with the way the Game Awards are, I think they save that for like Forza Horizon 6, and now if Clockwork Revolution makes an appearance.
That's another one. Yes.
I think that makes lands on Xbox next year. Just because the timing, I think it's about that time. I think they're a lot further along than people think. And the funny thing is, it seems like a lot of Xbox studios are a lot further along than people think. Like, who would have thought that would have vowed delayed till this year that they would have, Outer Worlds 2 ready at the end of the year or later this year? Like, I don't think many people had that on their bingo card. So some teams are quicker to turn things around. Others, like Bethesda, has been working, or ZeniMax Online has been working on something outside of Fallout 76. And I don't have any inside info on it, but just looking at their pedigree, not pedigree, but their history of games that they've approached. They've already done the space thing with Starfield. They've already done the high fantasy RPG stuff with Skyrim. They've already done the post-apocalyptical stuff with Fallout. I wouldn't be surprised if they have something cyberpunk like or Blade Runner like. Just imagine if that was a MMO that they release where it's almost like a cyberpunk MMO with Blade Runner, bounty hunting type things involved. And, it's, you play with your friends or, just do the missions with the NPCs in that static world. But I wouldn't be surprised if that game that they've been working on for now, I think it's at least 6 years at this point, makes an appearance. Like I said, I don't know what it will be exactly, although I've been told it's not Starfield MMO, which kind of makes me sad a bit, but I would love for it to have been that. But if it's not that, and it's not another Fallout thing, or if it's not something Skyrim related, I say, go for the cyberpunk aspect of things and see how that goes. But I think there's going to be surprises, but not like out of the realm of, oh, I didn't see that coming at all. Like, we kind of expect Contraband to make an appearance. Like, their social media thing, they made a couple of postings. So with Contraband, that's one that we heard would have been ready earlier this year, but got pushed back to the later part of this year, but might be set for 2026. So that I expect to be there. State of Decay 3, I'm really hoping is there with an update. Although we did see a little bit of gameplay with the more recent trailers. Although some people will say, "Oh, that's CGI." No, that's what Unreal Engine looks like compared to what their normal game looks like now. To if you were to imagine that in Unreal, that last trailer looks like gameplay when they're aiming down sights for some of the weapons. So we'll see how that goes. But and that, I think that was another one that was supposed to be a 2025 title that quote unquote got pushed to 2026. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they squeeze all this into, like, let's say an hour and a half to 2 hour window, with more than likely Outer Worlds 2 taking up a good, let's say 15, 20 minutes plus. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Fable at this showcase, then maybe we see an update at
a direct Gamescom. Maybe next year to kind of open up 2026. I mean, it makes sense, right? That's definitely getting its own direct for sure. Yeah. And if it's going to release first half of next year rather than it was originally supposed to come out this fall, right? They're getting out of the way of GTA. They're getting out of the way of what is rumored to be. And again, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. The Black Ops 7 information, same leaker, more NDAs broken. Again, folks, look, I'm very excited for it because it is a sequel to Black Ops 2. It's supposedly taking place in 2035. I got a bunch of details. We'll get into those tomorrow. But, I mean, Fuzzy, I know, and that's the thing. When we say surprises, right? What's the biggest surprise of last year's showcase? Easily, for me, ladies and gentlemen, and throw your opinions in the chat so we can shout you out, chat. It was, of course, Gears of War E-Day. Like, we all thought it was going to be Gears something. Was the Marcus Phoenix collection that's supposedly happening this year? Was it Gears of War 6? That eventually will happen at some point. No one no one was like Gears of War E-Day. I don't think anyone even and so that's definitely the big surprise.
Yeah.
I have it. Look again. I'm sorry, as insiders go, and there's quite a few in the community that are go-to guys for me. Ecstasies is one of them. He very rarely misses. I know everyone's blowing up his timeline with the Oblivion thing. And again, this is not defending him. This is not defending myself or Detective Seeds or Hazardor or anyone that ran with this rumor. It's a rumor, folks. We take it with a grain of salt. But it does make sense that if that drops like during ESO, the ESO event, which I really thought it was going to, it's perfect. That is going to cannibalize what happened with South to Midnight. No one's going to play South to Midnight because they're playing the Oblivion remake. And more importantly, obscure Expedition 33 gets curb stomped because it's Oblivion. Everybody, I mean, who doesn't want to play a remake of one of the OGs of gaming from the Xbox 360? Raise your hand, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of them. So again, it makes sense. That is one of the rumored landing spots for this game. They show it available now in Game Pass. We'll see if that happens or not. But I don't know. And that's the thing. Maybe because we're kind of spoiled here, Fuzzy Belvedere, and I'm going to get your thoughts on that. There isn't a lot that we don't know about what Xbox is doing, right? Like we kind of know their roadmap is pretty ridiculous, and we're all excited for it. And they're just look. When we first started this conversation, what's the thing that we kept saying? Oh, that's 2026. Oh, that's 2026. So you potentially have in 2026, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm giddy with this because I know it's Xbox Game Pass, the ride or die kind of a thing. But my God, you 2020. So we keep saying, every year it's getting better. It's getting better. You have potentially Gears of War E-Day. You got Fable. You got Forza Horizon 6. I mean, I know I'm missing a few. You just said a Clockwork Revolution could be one. Bro, like, are we free? If you just stop there, if we say, you know what? I can't take it anymore, Xbox. Stop delivering these goddamn games. I can't play them. We're stopping at that 4. You won, ladies and gentlemen. That's your 1 per quarter. My God, how are there any complaints? But it's not going to stop there because there are so many. Perfect Dark could be releasing next year as well. That's number 5. Contraband, number 6. Call of Duty, whatever. That's number 7. And we just keep going and going, and it's ridiculous. Yeah. It is just so ridiculous. Any thoughts to that, Fuzzy Belvedere?
Well, there's projects that we kind of have an inkling that we know are in the works. Like we know something, not Fallout 5, but maybe Fallout not New Vegas 2 kind of thing.
Fallout New York. I'm biased. Sorry.
we know something Fallout is probably in the works. Now, NXIL could be doing a remaster of 1 and 2. Obsidian could be working on another location that's not Vegas. There's that. Then we know that Elder Scrolls 6, I always thought it would be a 2026 title, 6 in the title type of thing, but that might wind up being 2027, but we'll definitely get to see more of that, whether it's this showcase or next showcase. And one thing about Xbox, they tend to show their next Halo in a couple of showcases. So we saw Infinite, I think, stretched over 3 showcases. The first one was just showing like the environment and whatnot when they were first doing the Slip Space Engine stuff. But we could very well see what that Unreal Engine stuff beyond what they've shown as far as just like their environmental test things that they were doing, like with the flood and stuff like that. We could see, a vertical slice of something Halo related that will be launching with the next gen console in 2026 or 7 type of deal. This could be the start of us getting that peak at that. There's a ton of other studios that, they've recently finished up making a game and they're working on their next game. Like we know that Machine Games has expanded for a team that's going to be dedicated to doing the Indiana Jones stuff, both the DLC as well as, upcoming, titles in their series. but there's also Wolfenstein that's still
God, dude,
something that they're
wow.
working on. So there's bound to be something to catch our attention in this showcase and in upcoming showcases. But we also know that they have what is it? Was it Elsewhere Studio, which is part of Activision. It's been
Yes.
incubated for 2 to 3 years. Maybe we get to see an inkling of what they're working on. Um, I already made mention of like the Project Mar with Ninja Theory. Uh, there's just so much that we don't quite know at this point in time that they're working on, and all of their partners, like they're working with IO Interactive on
Yep.
stuff. They're working with People Can Fly on stuff. Some of the stuff may have been put on the shelf temporarily, but there's still those things that they can easily go back to. And we were talking about the Toys for Bob stuff.
Yeah,
So
I was literally going to say they're working with Toys for Bob, and obviously they showed interest in Banjo Kazooie.
mhm.
Hello, thank you very much.
and Iron Galaxy, I think, is back to like they were doing the support stuff for Killer Instinct. So if we see a Killer Instinct 2 or something along those lines, like and their partnership with Sega, which I'm pretty sure some of those like reimagined classics
Yeah.
are going to be probably shown on an Xbox stage, along with who knows Persona 6 kind of thing. But yeah, there's just so much that Xbox has been working on. I would have to believe, while we may not get surprises of stuff we've never seen before, like world premiere type of thing, we don't even need necessarily the world premiere stuff, because there's like I said earlier, there's at least 15 titles that they're working on that we're well aware of that are releasing either later this year, next year, or maybe early 2027. I would say if we get a surprise from Elsewhere, if we get a surprise from ZeniMax Online, that those would be show stealers just in that regard. If we get to see an inkling of what Halo Studios, I think is their new name, I see what they're working on now. I think that would be more than sufficient. But I think that's what this showcase is going to be about. What you can expect the last part of this year going into next year, and maybe one surprise. And who knows? Maybe it's a surprise. It's a third party partnership. We'll see.
Could very well be. You know what? Another game for next year that I forgot: State of Decay 3. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus, it's you know what? It's the playing field is unfair. I'm sorry. The three. How dare you, $3 trillion company, release all these games? I can't play them all. It's ridiculous. Delay them, please.
Yeah.
Look, ladies and gentlemen, I want to catch up on the 2 super chats we got here, and we'll get everyone out of here. $1.10, usually around 70, 75 minutes, with outros. Hopefully, you enjoyed the laughs, because we had a lot of laughs here. This was a lot of fun. Again, we're talking some rumors. We're talking some speculation. We're talking about the show that we know is confirmed. We just went over a romping list of what's left for this year and what's coming in 2026. Like I said, folks, all jokes aside, it's almost unfair at this point. Like, Xbox is hitting on so many cylinders that it's almost unfair. And again, hopefully they don't step on any rakes, because right now they do look like the best choice in gaming, simply because you can play games anywhere that you want. But even more so than that, you can play them using Xbox Game Pass, which is $20, currently at $20 a month. And you've heard me talk about this before, folks. If you are a decent consumer, you know that you can ask a friend of a friend, or go to to anyone's chat, or go to to Twitter and be like, hey, anyone know where I can get cheap Game Pass? And you'll get 1,000 responses, because everyone goes to look for these things, because they are under $10 when you get them from like CD Keys, and there's a few other ones. And again, you could get a year for about $100. I've seen it as low as $90 for a year using any of these services, and it's legit. It's not like they're pulling your leg and they might send you a code. Like, CD Keys is 1,000% legit. So if you do double down and you want to save money, that's the way to go ahead and do it. But we have a couple of super chats here. Hey, Chapo117 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, my Doom the Dark Ages helmet has just been delivered. Bro, Mine will be here on Wednesday. If people are asking if I'm doing an unboxing, I would love to. I don't know if I have the time because I didn't even do the unboxing for the Avowed press pack that I got. That was a very rare and very hard to get. I am going to do it. Just life has been super busy here, and obviously, there's no excuse. I know I got to get to the content. I know that I do unboxings. I'm gonna try and do both of them at some point, but I definitely want to do the unboxing for the Doom the Dark Ages helmet. I have the Doom the Dark Ages original of the Doom the first one here, and I definitely gotta make some changes to the shelf area. I cannot wait to get that statue. That Doom the Dark Ages statue looks freaking amazing. But thank you for the $5, brother. Super appreciate that. We have Gamer by Choice, bro. This is crazy. He says he has 433 days in Grand Theft Auto Online, so 6 can't come soon enough. Bro,
wow.
That is just unbelievable. Good on you, man, for having that kind of tenacity. 430. Like, I look at myself and I just crossed, what was it? 20 days, 25 days in like Black Ops 6. And I'm like, yeah, big man on campus. I should be ashamed. Yes, 433 days. Good for you, bro. That is awesome. And again, listen, you like what you like, man. There's nothing wrong with that. Do you, K Now, the broke boy insider, drops a very generous $2. Will, salute to you, brother. Thank you so much for the generosity. He says sooner or later, everyone has to relief, right? I mean, listen, they were trying to, and I listen, it's rare. Let them take their time. What you don't, I think what you don't want, and I think why they're a bit skittish of doing anything with it is Sea of Thieves is making bank for them right now. It's selling great on it does great on Xbox. It does great on PC, selling pretty good from what we understand on PS5. Eventually it's going to be released onto the Switch too. It's probably going to do numbers there. What they don't want is what happened with Sea of Thieves, right? So Everwild has to hit. It's got to look good. It's got to have the gameplay loop. And like Fuzzy was saying earlier, they have figured that out. Now, I don't know what that game is. I don't know. I was like, oh, well, it's kind of like Breath of the Wild multiplayer. I guess. But that's not enough for me. So we'll see. I don't know if it's a life sim. Is it a cell shaded Animal Crossing type of game? Maybe we'll see it. Maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll see it this this summer, but we will definitely check it out when that happens. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with me and Fuzzy for $1.15. We super appreciate the support. Again, obviously we do this for fun. I think today we had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun in this episode, a lot of laughs. And we appreciate all of the likes, all of the shares, all of the subs that you not only bring to this channel, but of course to Fuzzy and his wife's channel, which of course we're going to get into where you can subscribe and what you'll be subscribing to momentarily. A big thank you to all of the super chats that continue to come in, as well as the channel memberships that continue to fund the channel and allow for us to do the big giveaways, and of course update the consistent things that we need to make the channel run. All of the programs, all of the equipment. Unfortunately, that's not all for free. We're not syndicated yet. Maybe one day we will be, but we will certainly see. But Fuzzy Belvedere, besides selling your brand, which of course is the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre, we're here to sell the wife's brand, which of course is called Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday evenings. There's a couple of horror games that recently released. I'm wondering if you're going to cover any of those. I'll send you a list of them. There's one that looks kind of cheapy Charlie. It's almost kind of like a B or C one. I think it's like $6.39. So I mean, what are you going to get? It's like 20% off, but whatever. Listen, this is what we do. You never know what you're going to like and what you're going to dislike until you play it. But by all means, sell the brand. Where can people check you guys out Friday evenings? And, you guys are consistently doing, reviews and conversations of movies. Some movies are good. Some movies are just downright terrible. But that's the fun of it. Brother, sell the brand. Where can people not only subscribe to both of your YouTube channels, follow you guys on social media?
Well, as always, Boom, thank you for having me on. This was an awesome show. Just love talking about the industry and the excitement for the showcase right around the corner. Just love doing this as well as interacting with the chat. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for checking this out, taking the time to spend with us. Don't forget, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. It's greatly appreciated. For those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming or horror related, just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere on pretty much all social media. I put the link in the chat for both my YouTube as well as my wife's YouTube for Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. We're not having a movie this week because Fee is getting ready to prepare for a extra part in a movie. So she's getting her hair done. So she's going to be like one of the vampires in the upcoming movie. But I'll talk more about that later. Me and Silent Cypher might wind up playing streaming a horror video game. Haven't landed on which game just yet. I know I already have Resident Evil 7 and a few other Resident Evils that we could probably hop on and do. But I'll definitely keep you guys posted on that on my social media. But Friday, 6 p.m. No show just yet lined up, but be on the lookout for any postings for it. But hope to see everybody that's here in this chat today. Hope to see you guys Friday morning for Breakfast with Boom, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look forward to seeing you guys there. Thanks again.
And you know what? Speaking of Breakfast with Boom, my nephew, who's off this whole week, is going to be opening and closing as I'm continuing to teach him how to podcast. Here we're going to start, and we're moving on to things. I'm going to show him how to actually set up thumbnails and do the artwork. Obviously, he comes from a family of artists, and of course, we want to pique his interest in art. So we're going to be teaching him. He's actually going to be interning with me over the summer, and I'm going to teach him everything that makes a podcaster a podcaster. Of course, I always tell him, aim higher, kid, aim higher than just a podcaster, and hopefully he will. But yeah, he's going to be opening and closing this Friday's show, and I'm very excited, and he can't stop talking about it, which is really cool. I love the fact that we have that connection, and he enjoys, learning about the podcasting genre, because it is a lot to learn here. It is not easy, ladies and gentlemen. It's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun. And of course, shout out to East Coast Dan, my brother from another. Great to see you here, bro. Ladies and gentlemen, again, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much, honestly, for checking out not only this show, but the fact that we do this 5 days a week and we get everyone to come in and hang out, Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays. I will be slicing this down into 3 different smaller topics. So if you didn't get a chance to watch the live stream and it's too long because, you obviously are doing stuff at the house with the kids, you just don't have the time, we will be, making them into smaller videos so they're a little bit more digestible. They're going to look different because they're each going to have their own thumbnails. And that's where a lot of the production work that people don't see in the background that I do, because it doesn't end just here. The minute this goes, we're off the air, I start working on slicing these things up, adding the gameplay, doing the thumbnails, and I love it. Honestly, it keeps me super busy. But again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for checking out today's show, hanging out with us here. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, one day will be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.